This is the Truth Radio Network, your home for compelling Christian news talk with an edge.
If I wanted America to fail, to follow, not lead, to suffer, not prosper, to despair, not dream, I'd start with energy. I'd cut off America's supply of cheap, abundant energy. I couldn't take it by force, so I'd make Americans feel guilty about using the energy that heats their homes, fuels their cars, runs their businesses, and powers their economy. I'd make cheap energy expensive, so that expensive energy would seem cheap. I would empower unelected bureaucrats to all but outlaw America's most abundant sources of energy. After banning its use in America, I'd make it illegal for American companies to ship it overseas. If I wanted America to fail, I'd use their schools to teach one generation of Americans that their factories and their cars will cause a new ice age, and I'd muster a straight face so I could teach the next generation that they're causing global warming. When it's cold out, I'd call it climate change instead. I'd imply that America's cities and factories could run on wind power and wishes. I'd teach children how to ignore the hypocrisy of condemning logging, mining, and farming while having roofs over their heads, heat in their homes, and food on their tables. I would never teach children that the free market is the only force in human history to uplift the poor, establish the middle class, and create lasting prosperity. Instead, I'd demonize prosperity itself so that they will not miss what they will never have. If I wanted America to fail, I would create countless new regulations and seldom cancel old ones that would be so complicated that only bureaucrats, lawyers, and lobbyists could understand them. That way small businesses with big ideas wouldn't stand a chance. And I would never have to worry about another Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, or Steve Jobs. I would ridicule as flat earthers those who urge them to lower energy costs by increasing supply. And when the evangelists of common sense try to remind people about the laws of supply and demand, I'd enlist a sympathetic media to drown them out. If I wanted America to fail, I would empower unaccountable bureaucracy seated in a distant capital to bully Americans out of their dreams and their property rights. I'd send federal agents to raid guitar factories for using the wrong kind of wood. I'd force homeowners to tear down their own homes built on their own land. I'd make it almost impossible for farmers to farm, miners to mine, loggers to log, and builders to build. Because I don't believe in free markets, I'd invent false ones. I'd devise fictitious products like carbon credits and trade them in imaginary markets. I convince people that this would create jobs and be good for the economy. If I wanted America to fail, for every concern I'd invent a crisis, and for every crisis I'd invent the cause, like shutting down entire industries and killing tens of thousands of jobs in the name of saving spotted owls. And when everyone learned the stunning irony that the owls were victims of their larger cousins and not people, it would already be decades too late. If I wanted America to fail, I'd make it easier to stop commerce than to start it, easier to kill jobs than create them, more fashionable to resent success than to seek it. When industries seek to create jobs, I'd file lawsuits to stop them, and then I'd make taxpayers pay for my lawyers. If I wanted America to fail, I would transform the environmental agenda from a document of conservation to an economic suicide pact. I would concede entire industries to our economic rivals by imposing regulations that cost trillions. I would celebrate those who preach environmental austerity in public while indulging a lavish lifestyle in private. I convince Americans that Europe has it right and that America has it wrong. If I wanted America to fail, I would prey on the goodness and the decency of ordinary Americans. I would only need to convince them that all of this is for the greater good. If I wanted America to fail, I suppose I wouldn't change a thing.
Hey, welcome in, friends, family, folks. This is the Truth Radio Network, and this is TRN at Nite. Got Rusty sitting in with me right now, and I, of course, am your host, Jay. I think Joseph might be joining us here in a little bit as well. But Rusty, let's get right to it, buddy. How's it going? Rusty, Jay, and Joseph, for those of you who don't know, are otherwise known as grumpy older men. So let's gripe about something tonight. Let's talk about people walking on the grass and all kinds of other stuff like that. Anyway, no, there's a football game going on, Rusty. Did you know that?
I guess. I just don't do sports, man. I don't do TV. So I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not even sure who is playing in the Super Bowl this year. So it's so irrelevant to me. I
do know who's not playing in the Super Bowl. That's my Detroit Lions. Of course, the only way they've seen a Super Bowl is because we've hosted one, 10 years ago now. But yeah, that's the only way. But I do know which teams are playing. Carolina is playing, and Denver is playing. And last I saw, for anyone interested, it was 13-7 at halftime, Denver. So, but I don't count. See, I'm going to get off sports here. I should have even brought it up. I don't count out Cam Newton with Carolina. They might actually pull this one out. So anyway, we didn't do the show. We didn't schedule the show to talk about sports. Most of you have listened before. Rusty's called in a number of times. And we get to talking to prepping and politics and pretty much whatever pops into our heads. And we decided we ran out of time Thursday. So we decided to do a show. So what's going on, Rusty? We haven't had a while to just kick back and have an old campfire chat.
No, we haven't. I got to ask you, Jay. So, who are you kind of leaning towards here in the presidential election this year?
Well, we just went through that on Thursday, man. What, too much vodka? I said Rubio. I called Rubio. I changed my prediction from Bush, but I do believe it's going to be Rubio. It's going to be the nominee, the Republican nominee. Now, I don't. If Rubio goes up against Hillary and Hillary, is able to, after tiptoeing all the minefields, and able to actually get the nomination, it's going to be a tough win for Rubio against Hillary. But if it's against Bernie, then I think it would be Rubio. I just see it's kind of a conspiracy theorist minded reason why I believe it's Rubio. I noticed his campaign slogan, and I wasn't even leaning towards Rubio. I wasn't even thinking about Rubio because he was, behind Rand Paul and polling and everything. So I wasn't even thinking about it. And I noticed his slogan was a new American century. I was like, ring the bell. Project for a new American century. So I was like, this guy. Immediately, it just struck me. I was like, this guy is playing the anti-establishment guy, but he's really establishment. I mean, that slogan, that's kind of a nod towards what I believe would be his foreign policy. As far as where it's at now and maintaining that, or even increasing that, and also where it's going to go, because. If anyone's familiar with Project for a New American Century, it's kind of a document that laid out what would be ideal situations and circumstances to further the military-industrial complex, the goals of the military-industrial complex. I guess that's the best way I can put it in a nutshell. So that's why I think it's Rubio. I think that's why it's going to be Rubio. I think, and you can see kind of, just with this Iowa caucuses, how the press is starting to shine their lights on him. So I called it first, but no, I'm not tooting my own horn. I don't usually do that because I made so many predictions and changed them or were wrong on them. We could fill a library with my wrong predictions, and yours too, Joseph's too, and everybody's too that speculates and comments on the news and everything. But I do believe Rubio is the candidate. I think that he's the one that's going to have the broadest appeal because I don't believe it's going to be a very large voter turnout. So the Republicans are going to have to throw somebody up there that can pick a little bit from each group, and Trump is too polarizing. And outside of Cruz, I don't know. I don't, I'm not going to vote anyway, so it doesn't matter because my guys aren't running. So, but Cruz, I don't think he's going to be able to go the distance. I don't think he's got the backing like Rubio and Bush do. Now, Bush could be the dark horse still, but I've changed my prediction. I'm not going to change it again. Rubio is my pick. But I've ran my mouth for quite a bit, Rusty. Go right ahead. I'm going to have a swig of coffee.
Well, right. But see, what I was asking, I knew your whole Rubio. I really don't think Rubio's going to be in there. I think that Trump's going to end up getting the nomination. However, my question to you was, who are you supporting? Not who do you think is going to win. Who would you like to see run on the Republican ticket? Who would you like to see run on the Democratic ticket? And in my case, I don't know what I would do. I may vote Libertarian again,
Okay, well, in an ideal world, then we wouldn't be having this conversation because Ron Paul would be running for his second term as president right now.
Right, yeah.
That would be my choice. That honestly, if in a perfect world, that would be my choice. Rand Paul, no, I don't think so. He's got a ways to go. He's got some support though. He does have some support, and he's got some great ideas. But I see, Rusty, I was involved in politics, man. I ran for office and the whole dog and pony show of politics and everything. It's just, and all the hoops you have to jump through, and all the rear end you have to kiss. It's just, and I'm not talking about to the voters. I'm not talking about to the voters at all. You don't mind reaching out to voters, but it's these prospective donors.
The good old boy network.
Yes, yeah. It soured me on politics. I was gung ho. But so I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote. That is my vote. I'm not going to vote, and everybody can say, "Oh, you're just giving the election to so and so." I don't care because you know why? Ain't nothing going to change. Nothing's going to change. The politics and policies of a Republican president might move a quarter of 1 degree to the right, and on the surface, but things are going to keep continuing the way they are. That's my opinion. That's why I don't believe anything's really going to change. So who are you going to support?
I don't know. I really wanted Rand Paul to be there. Cruz, there's no way in hell. We've already got a foreign president in the office. I don't want one from Canada now. I can't vote for Rubio. He's globalist through and through. You're gonna get all pissy with me here, but I actually kind of like some of Trump. I can understand that. I can understand that. I thought you were going to say Bernie Sanders for a minute. No,
like, no.
Bernie. I have a thing about National Socialism. Being that my mother's a Jew and all. These National Socialists tend to round up my sort of people up, and I don't know what they killed, about 200 million in the last century. I don't think we need to start this century out with another purge. But and I'm not Jewish, by the way. Okay, so nobody start sending me Auschwitz jokes and stuff like that. But what I like about Trump, there's some things I don't like. I don't think that with Trump, I don't think we're going to get an end to the wars. I think we may get a scaling back of the wars, and maybe that's the best thing we can hope for, because I don't think he's going to focus on war. I think he's going to focus on other things. But I don't think he's going to close down half of the bases like he's saying he's going to, and pull a lot of our troops home. I just don't see that happening. What I really like about Trump is he's really not an insider. To me, he's not a political scumbag. He may be a scumbag, but he's not a political scumbag. I think he is kind of an outsider. I think he understands making a payroll every month. He understands costs of doing business, and I think he's a little more attuned to businessmen in this country than somebody like a Bernie Sanders who's never had a job in his life, or a Hillary Clinton who, enjoyed watching Benghazi from a photo drone. That's disgusting. That's why I kind of like Trump. Like I said, he's outside. says it like he means it. He doesn't play the political correct card. That's again, I don't know if I can hold my nose and vote for the guy though. I don't know. But there's some things about him that I do like. There's very little about Cruz that I can say I like.
Right.
There's nothing about Rubio that I say I can like. There's nothing about Sanders or Hillary Clinton that I say I can like. I kind of like Trump. That's all I can say about it. But I don't know if I'm going to vote for him. I really don't. I may just go libertarian again.
Yeah, that's not a bad. See, I don't believe this whole thing of wasting vote because, really, honestly, the Electoral College decides the president through delegates. Your vote really doesn't count. Ask Al Gore. And I'm not an Al Gore fan at all. I don't really care much for the tree hugger at all.
Right.
The tree hugging hypocrite. But it's...
Hey! That's no way to talk about the inventor of the internet.
Hey, that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to state my opinion. It's not slanderous if it's your opinion.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay. I think Ron Paul probably knows more about how the system works too, because he got outright hosed at
oh man, did he?
I mean, he should have been the nominee. And they brokered that convention, and they pushed him out because they knew they couldn't control the guy. Again,
he was the last. I was just going to say he was the last Republican potential presidential candidate that really kind of connected with the young voters. There's not too many Republicans that connect with the young voters, and Ron Paul did that, and I think that scared the establishment. I hate this word because they're using it all the time now. The establishment Republicans. I think it caused the establishment Republicans to soil their Pampers, and that's why they went with this brokered convention to get them out of there. Right? I thought the whole process just stunk, whatever.
Stinked?
Yeah.
Stinked? I don't know. Smelled bad.
Yeah.
Smelled bad. But and again, that's kind of why I have a little bit of a leaning towards Trump if I have to vote Republican, because they hate him with a passion. And I mean, you get on Facebook and look at how their trolls are just pushing Cruz, pushing Rubio, pushing Cruz, pushing Rubio, and talking how horrible Trump would be for the system. And they're protecting the system, they're pushing the system, they're not pushing a candidate. So that kind of tells me that the system and the powers that be do not like Donald Trump. Plus, I don't think he can be bought out, in my opinion. I mean, he don't need money, that's for darn sure. And what sleaze he has in his past life, he addresses it on stage. So I don't think he's corruptible. Well, I don't think he's corruptible by the system. But again, I have a real problem with his stance on war and some of the other things that he stands on. I mean, there is no ideal candidate. I don't know who the ideal candidate is, Jay.
Right, and that's the problem. I think that's why we're going to have such a low voter turnout, because there's really not that one candidate that just touches every single demographic. It just it's rare, but the good old boys and gals are going to get out and vote along party lines, and you're going to see probably a 38% voter turnout for this presidential, maybe 42% turnout for this presidential election. And it all depends on who Rubio's running against. Because I don't like Trump. I don't like Trump simply because he's just sound bites to me. He has. And it really doesn't matter because nothing's going to change, But if you're gonna say you're gonna choose a president on his stance on issues, Trump doesn't have a stance on issues. He flip flops. He is a big flip flopper, but he does strike a chord with a lot of people because some of his statements and his personality is just so bombastic, and he's saying things that a lot of folks are thinking, but because of political correctness, don't say. And he's striking a chord. But how does that translate into people coming out to vote? And then how does it translate into Trump actually running the country? Because, running the country is a lot different than running a business. And Obama had no none whatsoever. The community organizer and a part-time senator. But that being said, hey, Donald Trump might be the greatest president ever. If we're going to compare him to the experience. But I just hang on one sec. To me, Donald Trump, and this isn't a personal slam against him. This is just his business dealings and some of the things I've researched on him. He's a used car salesman ish. He's slimy in my opinion.
But Jay, they all are. They're all slimy.
Yes, I know.
I mean,
I know, and just because Donald Trump comes out and says, comes out and tells you he's slimy or he's a used car salesman or he's done that, doesn't make it any better that they're all like that. Just because he says it, okay, yeah, he's the only one that's admitting it. They're all like that though. But to me, Donald Trump is just he's always going to be a sideshow, a WWF sideshow. He was on a wrestling match a while back, a few years ago. He's always going to be that the type of personality that's. And you said that money, he can't be bought out or he can't be corrupted by money or influence like that. I think what might possibly be corrupting would be power. And I think his personality gravitates towards power, the need for power.
But Jay, he's got an awful lot, a lot of that now, he's got an awful lot of power. And again, I'm not stumping for Trump, but I will.
Yeah, you are. I know you've got a
really
Trump
not.
Bumper sticker. You're a trumpeter, aren't you?
Yeah, I put it over my Ron Paul sticker, yeah. No, I'm not trumping for Stump. I am saying, look, I'm gonna use a historical quote here, okay? Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was probably one of the sleaziest, slimiest, you-know-whats that this country has ever seen for president, had a saying. And it's a saying that y'all may be familiar with, you may not be familiar with. And I don't even know who he was referring to, but they asked him about a certain individual that was doing some work for him. And he said, yeah, he may be a son of a bitch, but he's our son of a bitch. That's what I'm saying about Donald Trump. Do you get my gist? He may be all hat and no cattle, but as long as he wants those polling numbers and he's being held accountable to the so-called quote conservative cause, I think that that's a whole lot better than what we have now.
Well, like I said, I don't believe anything is going to change. Did you notice, by the way, the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal has been signed. Still has to be ratified, but it's been signed. Did you notice that?
Right, I know.
Did you hear about that? Thanks a lot.
I did.
Man.
No, you're right, Jay. It's because it's not the figurehead. It's not the people that we elect. It's the entrenched bureaucracy and the entrenched system that we have. That's the problem. It's not. We change presidents every 4 or 8 years, depending on the system. We change our senators every 6 years or however long they can hold on to power. And our congressmen are, 4 years, I guess, every 4 years or however long they can hold into power. So we have this fluctuating Congress, this fluctuating executive branch, executive head, but the bureaucracy that is attached to Congress, to the executive branch, to the judiciary doesn't change. It's the same group of scumbags that run TSA, that work for TSA, that work for DHS. And people out there, if you're a Republican and you are so concerned about freedom, might I remind you what George Bush did to this country? George Bush put into effect the TSA. George Bush put in the Department of Homeland Security. This was all his. Let's talk about socialized medicine under Bush. Medicare drug benefit program came out from Bush, and you guys are bitching and screaming about Obamacare. None of them are good, but you can't point your finger at this one and say he is more socialist than that, or he's more totalitarian than that guy was. That guy set up the framework. This guy just expanded it. So you're right.
The problem is,
bureaucracy.
The problem is, Rusty, with the election and the whole circus, the running of the clowns, as our buddy Joseph puts it, the whole circus that is the whole electoral process. The problem is candidates, first of all, aren't qualified, in my opinion, to be commander-in-chief if they haven't done any military service. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think you should be able to command the military if you haven't at least done a tour. So that's just me. But beyond that, I just wow, I forgot where I was going with that. Man, I had such a good thought. You see what happens when you make me do a show at night? See what happens?
Must see you get back on your Alzheimer's medicine, man.
Oh boy, where's that coffee at? I need it. Where was I going with that? Help me out here, man.
I don't know where you were going. I was.
Oh, you weren't listening.
And then you dropped your thought.
Oh boy, this is gonna bug me all night now. You know that until it pops back into my head. It's probably that's the ADD, I guess. Boy. Anyway, what was the question? Let's get back to that. Anyway, let's move right along, man. Let's move right along. We've wasted enough time talking politics. I really didn't think we'd be talking politics this long because, as most folks know, Rusty and I get together, we talk current events, news, prepping, things like that. We can keep talking politics, though, if you want, Rusty.
Hey, whatever you want.
Hey, what I was going to say, I remember. See, now I remember what I was going to say about Donald Trump really quick, and it was about Donald Trump. I don't believe that through the long haul, by the time November rolls around to vote, I don't believe that he's going to be able to. Often saying now who's on first exactly. I don't believe he's going to be able to hold his popularity once the fervor and the novelty of Donald Trump wears off. He got booed the other night in this debate. I don't know if you're aware. He did get booed for saying something against Jeb, the Bush. So I think once the novelty wears off and the only thing that Donald Trump is sound bites and he has no really good policy ideas. I just don't think he's going to be the candidate, and it's nothing personal because I think the guy's entertaining as heck. I think he's hilarious. He says what's on his mind. And he's fun to watch. Now that being said, that's not qualifications to be president.
Why not? Why is it not good qualifications? You know what? In reality, the president initially was supposed to be commander-in-chief, which, he could decide maybe we need to go to war somewhere and bring it up to the Congress for approval. And other than that, he was kind of a figurehead. He was supposed to shake hands, meet the Queen of England, meet the leaders of the world, and have little dinner parties and keep people our friends and entertain. And that was it. He wasn't supposed to be a policy guru. He wasn't supposed to be pushing, personal vendettas around the world. That's not what they were originally set up to be. They were supposed to be figureheads. They were supposed to be representative of the country, and that's about all they were supposed to be. There's no authority for these guys to do some of the crap. Specifically, this one. This one's really, really overstepped his bounds. But the previous few have too. I think all this droning and all this crap that's gone on since Bush won. It's all extra constitutional. It shouldn't be there. This kind of crap, they need to rein them in. And what gets me about this is specifically this one we have now has really seized a lot of power, and Congress has basically turned it over to him. That's what really concerns me. We are heading towards a monarchy almost. Although a rotating monarchy, I have a feeling that we're heading towards a position that will be a monarchical post with a rotating head. Does that make sense?
Now, do you base it on what the number of executive orders issued? Is that what you base it on? Because Obama's issued so many executive orders? Because compared to presidents prior, Obama is nearly 80 behind what W issued as far as executive orders go.
Sure. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But what I am talking about is policies that this guy pushes and claims he has the right to push.
Yes.
Of course, the gun control thing really pissed me off. But the seizure and consolidation of power, and not just this one. The last, like I said, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, and this one now they have the NSA. The NSA is part of the executive branch. They listen to every phone call in this country. And if I were president of this country and I had every phone call by every individual, and I could pull up the Supreme Court and congressional personal phone calls, which we now know they're doing because we've had congressmen come out and say that they've been blackmailed by the executive branch, I could have any policy that I want in this country because I would blackmail every congressman and every Supreme Court justice. And we've had one Supreme Court justice state that he'd been blackmailed. And it's all, of course, that doesn't make the media. I would have whatever I wanted in this country. I would be president for eternity because I'd get the Supreme Court to overrule the Constitution, the limitations of power, and I would be president forever because I could blackmail them. And that's what's going on.
But you couldn't blackmail the population, Rusty. You know, that would be the problem. Eventually, unless you were super popular and ultra socialist, giving everything away, and the peasants were happy, they would burn the White House down, bro. I mean, or your residence, wherever. You wouldn't survive that long unless you were popular.
Look at the popularity of Congress right now. It's in the single digits.
But even with Congress, there's still the ability to vote those people out if people are so inclined to do so. Once you take that ability away from them, you're going to have problems. Whether they exercise that freedom or not isn't the issue. You know, the problem, the fact is that they have it. And folks could be doing a lot more to upset the apple cart in Washington, but people just aren't involved enough. And because, you know, and I hate to sound anti-American here, but it's an old Russian saying, you know, fat, lazy Americans. We become fat and lazy. Fat and lazy and content.
And stupid. Let's not forget stupid.
Oh, we've absolutely been dumbed down.
I'm sorry, uninformed. Let's just leave it at uninformed. Uninformed. Yeah, stupid. Because I am still actually blown away that a guy like Bernie Sanders, who's never had a job, can actually get such a groundswell of support.
I saw it coming, bro. I saw it coming. I saw the move towards socialism. I talked about it a couple of years ago on these very airwaves because some of the European countries were shifting more socialist, more towards the left, and I saw how it was attracting the younger crowds.
Right. The problem with it is I don't think people don't understand what socialism is. I really, it is the raping of a country through bureaucratic means. That's exactly what it is. I'm not saying what we have now isn't doing the same, but I can still kind of go out there and make my way in the world and come out ahead for the most part if I'm smart or hardworking or I have an idea or I can inherit it or whatever. We can still, for the most part as Americans, we're a classless system. Socialism tries to destroy that class system and make everybody equal. It's not equality of opportunity under socialism. It's equality of outcome is what socialism stands for. We know that in the 20th century, the biggest mass murderers and the genocidal maniacs were all socialists. Now, as many have pointed out, there's a difference between National Socialism and the soft European socialism that we have now. But is there? Is there really? because this so-called soft European socialism, sure, it's not rounding up Jews and tossing them in detention camps, but it is taking 60 to 75% of everything that everybody makes at the point of a gun, because if you refuse to pay it, they come and kill you. So is it really soft socialism? Right now in this country, we're at 40%, 45%, depending on what state you live in. Is that soft socialism? Yeah, it is. But those kinds of people, if you look at what Bernie Sanders talks about, and if you speak German a little bit and kind of listen to what Adolf Hitler was talking about, they run on very similar platforms. Hitler, education for all. The whole concept of the kindergarten is a German concept of getting the kids at a young age and getting them into schools. German unification, we're all one people, and we will make the trains run on time, and we will have universal health care. These were things that Adolf Hitler, and we will nationalize these industries for the good of the country. That's exactly what Bernie Sanders is running on. Now, he's not talking about taking Jews out and hanging them from light poles, but he's basically one step away. You know, and I don't think he would come to that, and I'm not saying Bernie Sanders is a genocidal maniac. I'm just saying he's an idiot. His political ideology is idiotic, and we've seen it fail in the past. You cannot look at Europe and say that Europe is a successful place. It's a mediocre place. It's a place that trudges along. It's a place that gets by on the minimum, and that's what Bernie Sanders wants for this country. And I don't think it's a good way to do things. My personal opinion. Maybe,
and I agree.
Maybe I'll be put.
No, I agree. Socialism is not the way to go. I mean, look at the socialist policies of France and Italy and Greece and other nations, Spain, and those are the nations that are having the most financial difficulty right now, where the unemployment is really high, especially high among the young population, the young demographic, and that is after decades and decades of socialist policies. And that has yet to begin here in this country, and Bernie's just the tip of the iceberg. You can see the Democrat Party moving further and further to the left, and at the same time, the Republican Party is moving further and further to the center, which is left, by the way. Moving to the center is a nicer way of saying moving to the left for the Republicans. But they are moving far further and further away from the right. Republicans are. So socialism is, people, that appeals to them. Free stuff appeals to people. We want to give you something for doing nothing, and you don't have to do anything about it. All you got to do is pay your taxes. Go to work, pay your taxes, and we'll take care of everything for you.
You don't have to go to work.
People like that.
Well, no, not work.
You have to be productive.
No, you got to be kidding me. You think France is a productive place? Right now, what a lot of people don't realize is we have now hit $19 trillion, officially $19 trillion.
$19 trillion, and officially. Now, if you believe folks like Lawrence Kolikoff and other folks who dig deep into the stats, we're at 200 or so.
And which I tend to put more credibility with, because they bring up the unfunded liabilities. A lot of people don't realize, because every year you get this little statement in the mail. It's called your Social Security account, and this is the amount of money that you put in, and this is the amount of money that you can expect at retirement. People, there's no money in your Social Security account trust fund. They steal it every year, and they write an IOU. They take every dime that goes into the Social Security fund, and they use it for the general fund for the United States, and they spend it on drones and the mating habits of the South American hummingbird, and why this cheese tastes better than that cheese. That's your retirement money. And then every year they'll jack your account around, and they'll lower the amount of money that you can get. It's a giant Ponzi scheme. If I were to pull the same crap that the Social Security Administration pulls, I would be in jail like as quick as Bernie Madoff went to jail. Because what I'm doing is I'm taking money in. Say I take $100 in, I'm paying $90 out to other people, and I'm keeping the rest for myself. And I continue to take more money in and give the money out to the people that or in so-called investing in the system, and I'm taking my own money out, and eventually you get to the point where it's critical mass, you can't pay the money out anymore, and you leave. You leave town. It's exactly what Social Security is.
Exactly. Now, for folks who aren't aware, there was no cost of living increase for Social Security recipients this year because the inflation. That's another thing. Well, if we want to get into stats and numbers and figures, man, that's another thing we can talk about. The unemployment rate, the inflation, the rate of inflation, things like that. It's just ridiculous how, things are going. And, we've had a reprieve as far as gasoline goes. I mean, I don't mind seeing the $1.39 gas at the pump. But everything else is going up in price. Right. And folks don't get a cost of living increase if they're on a fixed income, which I think is ridiculous. If elected representatives are going to get a raise, then so should the folks that employ them.
Yeah, but we can drop a drone on a wedding party over in some country that most people can't find on a map and kill a bunch of people that are, having a wedding. And what, about $250,000 apiece on those drones? How many of them we dropped this year? Hundreds. They quit telling us that they're doing it now. So that's good news. I guess if they're not telling us they're doing it, they're not doing it. These wars are breaking us. War is breaking us. And I hate to say this because I love my country, but my country is doing some really bad things around the world that are really pissing people off. And we are, in my opinion, 100% responsible for this so-called refugee crisis in the Middle East. This is our baby. It really is. We've caused this problem. We've destabilized not only the Middle East, but now we're destabilizing Europe because we're putting pressure on these European countries to take these people in that many are jihadists. At the very least, they're a strain on the system, on an already strained system. And we know now that in France, the theater attack guys, the one that they caught alive, said that he came in under Syrian refugee status. So we caused the problem. Now we've got these migrations of mainly uneducated folks, and I'm not knocking these Muslim people, but they're mainly, in the Muslim world, we have a 60% illiteracy rate. Not a lot of skilled labor coming out of Syria. Excuse me, kind of belch there. And we have the very real possibility that even if we say 10% of them are jihadists, and they took 1 million of them into Germany, that's a 100,000-man army that's sitting there that are jihadists. So, and we want to start bringing them here. I think that's a big mistake without vetting these folks. I really do.
Well, I have a problem with letting folks into the country without vetting them, regardless of who they are. That's not the way the immigration system is supposed to work. I have no problem with people coming to this country. That's what makes our country awesome. That's what makes our country so great and so diverse. If you're into that thing, type of thing, I just throw that word out there because people like that. But that's some of my best friends are non-European whites. Let me put it that way. I mean, they're of different races, different cultures, and I think it's awesome when the system is utilized properly, but the problem is that the system is so broken, it's so bloated and so bureaucratic that it's easier for someone to try and do it illegally than it is to go through and I'm not saying it's right, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's right, but it's easier. It's more enticing for folks to skip the bureaucratic red tape. And that's a problem. That's a problem. The system is bloated. The system needs to be fixed. I don't think building a wall is a good idea because, once you build walls, you kind of wall in your own population. I just don't like the whole idea of building walls. To me, that's not a good solution because, hey, you build a wall, someone's going to get a ladder. You build a higher wall, someone's going to get a bigger ladder or dig. You can't. People are going to come no matter what, whether you have a wall or not. They're going to find a way, and the way they should be finding is the proper way. It should be simple. I'm not saying let everybody in. That's not me at all, because I do believe that folks should be vetted. I think there should be a waiting process. I think you should apply for citizenship, wait in your own country until you've been checked out. And I don't think that process should take 7-8 years. I think a year at the most. We keep people from trying to get here illegally, because folks are tired of living on $1 or $2 a day. They want to come here and make more money, and I understand that. But it's got to be done the right way. And the way the system is now, man, it would have to take a miracle to fix that system. It really would.
Well, there's a couple of things that we could implement if we really wanted to stop the illegal flood. Number one, any company or individual that gets caught hiring an illegal, an undocumented worker or whatever, I just call them illegal aliens. It's what it always has been. I'm not real politically correct. So hires an illegal alien, it's a felony. Real simple. I mean, that make it federal law. Any individual, whether I'm hiring some dude to mow my lawn or Donald Trump is hiring people to work for his, Trump Towers or one of his casinos in Atlantic City, if they have an illegal alien working for him, the CEO, the man in charge, the person that did it, goes to prison for a year. And I'll guarantee the system will straighten itself out really quick.
Now, see, you want to talk about straightening out, right? You want to talk about straightening out systems, then we got to straighten out the court systems as well, because we know it favors the folks who have the money. You said throwing these people in jail for a year. What's to say they don't get an attorney to twist it all around and say, oh, well, we'll just pay a fine and this and that. And then, it really doesn't have any effect because they've got the money to pay the fines anyway. So that system has to be fixed.
1 year in jail minimum. The system's fixed. Period. There's no leeway on that. I mean, that would fix the system right there. And this anchor baby crap needs to go too. I don't think that's a proper. That's not the way the system was intended. A bunch of Chinese people getting on a 747 and flying to L.A. and spitting their kids out in a hotel so that the kids will have automatic U.S. citizenship. Not the way things are supposed to be either. And they're doing that. They're having citizenship flights or citizenship vacations, they call them.
Right. The system is messed up. It is broken.
And I'm like you. I want as many decent people that want to come here to get here. And you're right. This lottery system that they have is crap. And the the H-1B program that they have is crap. We need to fix the system. It should. I got friends of mine that moved here from Belgium, and they've been here 10 years. His wife, he has the H-1B visa. They own a house, they own a dog, they own a car. He's able to work. She is not able to get a job because of the system. And they've been 10 years in the process of trying to get citizenship. And like I said, they pay taxes, they pay property taxes on their home, or they own a vehicle, they got a dog, they got a kid, everything else. Now the kid got citizenship. They don't. And it's a messed up system. No more than 1 year to get them through the process. At 1 year, 365 days, either it's a yay or nay for these folks. Real simple. And I don't care if they're from Mexico or they're from India or they're from wherever. And I think there should be a little bit of a preferential thing for certain folks. Maybe skilled labor where we have, Juan Valdez from Colombia is an expert coffee grower and it's something we need in the United States. He should have a preferential, he should come to the front of the line. They should work a little quicker on his visa or on his citizenship application. The person that's coming up here to dig ditches, I'm not saying that's not important. He still falls within the year, but maybe we need to kick him a little further back down in the line on the process of looking for people to dig ditches, because we've got a lot of people here that need to get their fat asses up off the couch and go dig ditches themselves. Not everybody can grow coffee, can be a nuclear scientist, or can be a physician. That's a problem in this country. We at one time we were somewhat selective on the folks that we allowed in. We don't have that selectivity anymore. It's just Katie bar the door, open the gate, everybody comes in. You go to California, automatically get a driver's license. You don't even have to speak English, don't have to prove citizenship. And now that driver's license because the federal law has a 50-state reciprocity. So they can go from California with that driver's license, they can move to Connecticut and get a Connecticut driver's license, and they can automatically vote because Connecticut has motor voter. So we have illegal aliens voting in our elections. So we got a mess. We have a real mess. And I honestly don't think the Republic's going to stand too much longer. I think the Republic is in its final throes of freedom. It's almost done with.
You brought up a good point about digging ditches, and that ties into another point I made earlier about our criminal justice system. I don't have a problem with putting prisoners to work, doing things like that, digging ditches and whatnot. I think that would help that would go a long way in dissuading folks from committing certain crimes. Now, I'm not saying you get caught smoking a joint or drunk or intoxicated in public or playing or downloading a video or something you shouldn't be downloading online or the piracy and things like that. I'm saying the hardened criminals, the folks that are death row, maximum security, supermax security, those folks. You should put them to work. Now, maybe not necessarily digging ditches if they're that dangerous, but I do think that prisoners have it a lot easier than it should, and a lot of people use the prison system as a way to kind of take a break. I've seen stories where folks will commit crimes just so they can get tossed in.
Well, the problem that I have with using prison labor is it cuts into private companies.
Now, see,
and there's a lot of
right. Now, see, my idea, though, Rusty, real quick. Sorry, my idea would be for, like, say you want to have prisoners manufacture things. Okay, then you have them manufacture things for the prison system as a whole. Make the jumpsuits, make the cooking utensils, things like that, to where the prison system doesn't have to spend taxpayer money on that stuff. Now, with the advent of privatized prisons and whatnot, that kind of throws that whole argument out of the way. And, private prisons are becoming a big business in this country. I don't know how aware folks are of that, but private prisons are big business. And a lot of places where there's a private prison and a public or a municipal owned prison, the private prison has more inmates, so that's more money, being generated. I don't like the idea of locking people up for profit. To me, that's just, I don't like it. I don't like the idea of for profit.
Right, and there's been some instances where these private prisons have contracts with the state or the municipal, whatever, and they don't get the quota, and they go and they sue the county, the state, whatever, the judges to have more convicts in. So, next thing you know, you're getting a speeding ticket, and the judge is now sentencing you to 25 years to life so they can fill the quota for the private prison. No, but that's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening, and that's not right. That's wrong. That's a wrong system. Guy gets caught with pot, and they're throwing the book at this guy and giving him 15 years in the penitentiary for one joint. And on top of stealing his car and stealing his dog and taking all his property, now they throw him in the pokey so that they can fulfill that contract with the private prison. And that's been happening.
Yeah.
So I totally disagree with private.
Same here. There's a lot of things that should be fixed. And you know what? We talk about this a lot, not just on this show, but on other shows, how, things need to be fixed and how things need to be taken care of, and, nothing gets done. Like I said earlier, fat and lazy as a society, dumbed down. Folks would rather have a relationship with someone online that they've never met than go to their own neighbors and see how their neighbors do it. I mean, that's how far as a society we've fallen. People really don't care. They want to be entertained. They want to watch American Idol, which is the last season if you're interested in that, which I know, Rusty, that's your favorite show, American Idol. I'm joking.
I've never seen
Yeah, you're not missing anything, believe me. Folks want to be entertained, they want to be pacified, and they don't have time for politics. How many times have you heard that, casual conversations? I don't have time to worry about something like that. But just don't worry about it. It's just your grandchildren's freedom we're talking about. Go on back to sharing photos of your dinner on Facebook or Pinterest or whatever. The government.
All right, your
I just
Skype
posted.
just took a puke on us here, brother.
What's that?
I said your Skype just took a puke on us, I think. You're nothing but breaking up.
Am I all right now?
Yeah. That's the second time that has happened. Yeah, this is really weird for me, too, because I don't normally, we've been doing these shows for quite a few years, and I don't generally do a political show. I thought prepping, and I don't really get into the politics.
By all means, talk about what you want. I talk about everything. I just put this link into the chat room, and I found it in Yahoo Canada. U.S. is looking for ways to toughen their fight against domestic extremists. And for you folks who support this war on terror, I've got to say this is the natural extension of. So if you're anti-government, then the article says if you're anti-government, the government is looking for ways to classify you as a domestic terrorist, and therefore suspending your constitutional rights, any freedoms that you have, things like that. This is how far this war on terror has gone. It's turned back around.
Exactly. And the lefties, or the righties in this country point and say how much better George Bush, the stupid, was than the one that we have now. George Bush was the one that set all this crap into motion. I mean, really, this is Department of Homeland Security. This is Patriot Act. This is Patriot Act.
Well, no, I disagree with that. I do this. A lot of it was set in motion due to the Patriot Act. A lot of it was.
Right.
A lot of it, but no, I mean, a lot of it was created, but it wasn't set in motion. It was set in motion decades before that. Ronald Reagan's war on drugs did a lot to bring about. Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Ronnie. Ronnie's your hero.
I didn't say that. Now, make me come over there and smack you alongside the head. I have met Ronald Reagan in person. Ronald Reagan when I met him, was a pretty cool guy. I really liked Ronald Reagan's first term of office, and then I think that he was shot, and things changed. I think that when he was shot, and again, I'm going to get into my conspiracy mode here, but when he was shot, he had kind of a whole 180 on a lot of the positions that he had held before he was shot. So maybe there was a message to be sent to Ronnie. And like I said, I think Ronald Reagan first term was probably the closest thing to a libertarian president that we've had maybe since Jackson, maybe Andrew Jackson. I mean, he was really in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not anti Ronald Reagan. I just like to remind folks not to revise history. Ronald Reagan, like you said, he was. I like the guy, but I was young. I was born in '71, folks. So when Reagan was president, I was 13, 14. Was it 82, or 80 to 84, or 80 to 88? 80 to 88. So
80 to 88, and then in 88 we got Clinton, and
Bush for 4 years.
We got Bush, then Clinton, and then Bush the dumber, and this one.
Right. Yeah. So all this groundwork, this advancement of the TSA and the police state, and things like that. This is a long process, decades in the making, even before the war on drugs, even before that, because of all the groundwork that was laid, and then the terror attacks on 9/11, whatever your opinion is on that, we don't have to get into that. 9/11 is not one of my favorite topics to talk about, because there's so many polarizing views on that, and I don't. We're not even going to go there.
I would rather talk about rectal probing by aliens than try to discuss the 9/11 thing, because the rectal probing by aliens is probably less divisive than trying to rehash 9/11.
Yeah, I've always been one that doesn't believe the official story, and I don't believe the conspiracy theories either. I believe that the truth is somewhere between, but I've never focused on that, and I don't have a problem with anyone who has any view on 9/11. My main point has always been what's happened since then, our loss of freedoms due to the Patriot Act and things like that. That's been my main focus, because I've seen it coming. And I was one of the first folks to say that this TSA is going to step out of the airports. It's not called the Airport Security Administration. It's called the TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, for a reason. And we've seen it. We've seen it extend to other areas. So it's not that we're intelligent or super smart or anything. It's just we kind of know, where this was and where it is now and where it's headed. And Joseph says, no more probing, thank you.
Tyranny follows a pattern. Historically, tyranny follows the same pattern. People have written books on it. George Orwell wrote books on it. Thing is, George Orwell was trying to warn us, and these people take his books and use them as a damn battle plan. But if you read Animal Farm, you read 1984, there's another book out there. Orwell didn't write it, and it's skipping my mind who wrote it. Watership Down. Read some of these books, and you'll get an idea. They used to be required reading in school. I don't think they require them anymore, because it kind of stirs the poop pot in the school system when kids start realizing what's going on. But I think if I were to pick 3 books to read, Watership Down, 1984, and Animal Farm would be the 3 that I would require in school. There's another interesting book out there, or it was made into a movie, called The Wave, like an ocean wave. If you ever get a chance to read that one or watch the movie, that'll wake you up too. So,
it's another good one, is a Brave New World. It's one of my favorites.
World, yeah, absolutely.
They made that into 2 movies. One was in black and white, and it was really good, and the other was in color back in the early 2000s, and it was bad. It was horrible.
It was bad. Okay.
Yeah. But if that's the only one you can get online to watch, then go ahead and watch it. The story is still the same. It's just it's cheesy.
Encourage people to steal movies online, Jay?
No. I believe it's on YouTube. So hey, if YouTube allows it, it's got to be okay, because I tell you what, they are strict. Our shows are on YouTube. Yeah, our shows are on YouTube as of this year, and if you notice, we don't play too much music anymore. YouTube doesn't like it when we play too much music, but that's that's YouTube, and I accept that. We're on YouTube and Vimeo and SoundCloud and Spreaker, and here on Blog Talk Radio. So you gotta, if you want to get the shows out there, you gotta play by people's rules. And I used to love to play music, on the shows. That would be a great way to break up a show, play a song that was relevant to the topic we were discussing and things like that. But that's okay. We can do other things besides play music.
Sure. But, I mean, I don't think there's anybody out there that can deny that we're vastly becoming a tyrannical system. Buddy of mine, Chad, he and I used to talk a lot of politics, and he always had the what do you call it? A theory, not a theory, but a saying. He would call it soft tyranny or a soft dictatorship, and he would say, basically all of these European countries are soft tyrannies. They're tyranny without being too intrusive into your life. They're intrusive, but they're not enough to make you get pissed off enough to go storm the Bastille, but they are enough to make you really, really mad at the system. And that's what we're running into here in this country. It gets more and more intrusive every year. Every presidency, every administration builds upon the tyranny of the previous administration. The problem is, as Americans, I think that we are maybe going to go into a less intrusive tyranny pretty quick. We've already got our TSA, we got our Patriot Act. We can criminalize everything, just like in the Soviet Union, where they would say, because you're against the Soviet Union, you must have a mental disorder. We need to put you in a hospital. Well, now they have what they call authoritarian dissidence disorder or authority disorder. Basically, if you are anti-government, you can now be considered crazy. It's coming. I'm telling you, they're going to start putting people in mental institutions for their own good. Look what they're doing to the veterans now, taking away their right to own firearms. As of about 3 weeks ago, the VA is turning over all of its records to the BATF, which will deny a lot of veterans, and I mean it's considerable. It was a couple million, the right to purchase a firearm, because they might have trouble sleeping at night. They might not be real good with numbers, so they're getting they're having a check sent to their wife's account, and their wife's taking care of all the bills. Those are the sort of things that will deny now a person the right to purchase a firearm. Gosh, I'm beginning to wonder if maybe just you and I talking about how corrupt the system is, if we're next.
Well, that article I just posted in the chat room, I mean, I admit, I am, see, now, they throw out phrases like anti-government. I'm not anti-government, not at all. I'm anti-corrupt government. I'm anti-bloated, big, wasteful government. I'm I'm not anti-government at all. But they throw out things like that as a catch-all. You know, anybody that criticizes the government, oh, you're anti-government, that's where it's headed. And Joseph hit it right in the head. ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. That is a classified mental. Yep. Yeah, that is a classified mental disease, or disorder rather, oppositional defiant disorder. So yeah, I guess you can categorize me as that.
Well, I'm just anti-non-constitutional government. You know what's really screwed up about it? Back when I was in college with degrees, you got to take psychology, and you had to get the DSM. Gosh, I think I got the old DSM 1 or 2. I mean, tell you how old I am. In the DSM 1 or 2, whatever it was, a man dressing up in women's clothes was considered to be a disorder, psychological disorder. They've removed all that now. Now, if you're anti-big government, you're crazy. The guy that wants to wear a frilly little pink tutu in public, that's not crazy. Does this make sense to you? I think the whole system's crazy, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, it absolutely is, and that's kind of been the theme of the whole evening's show tonight. That's how screwed up the system is. You got the grumpy older men here, Rusty and Jay, sitting in on the Truth Radio Network. This is TRN at Night. Rusty, we're going to take a little break. I want to play a clip, grab a cup of coffee, catch our breath, and come back and maybe talk a little prepping or something. I don't know. Or maybe even take some calls, 646-378-0749, 646-378-0749. If anyone wants to call, the only way to call live is to listen to the show on Blog Talk Radio. And I'm only saying that because we get a lot of listens on these other outlets, but they're just podcasts. But you can actually take part in the live show. You can call us on there. You can tell us how bad we are. You can give us your recipe for making jerky if you want, talk prepping, politics, whatever's on your mind during the live show. The only way to find our live shows is go to our website, www.thetruthradionetwork.com. Rusty, let's go ahead and take that break, grab a cup of coffee, all right? We'll play this clip from Ron Paul. These are some predictions he made, 14 years ago. Let's see how they lined up.
Sweet.
Speaker, our government intervention in the economy, the private affairs of citizens, and the internal affairs of foreign countries leads to uncertainty and many unintended consequences. Here are some of the consequences about which we should be concerned. I predict U.S. taxpayers will pay to rebuild Palestine, both the West Bank and the Gaza, as well as Afghanistan. U.S. taxpayers paid to bomb these areas, so we will be expected to rebuild them. Peace of sorts will come to the Middle East, but will be short-lived. There will be big promises of more U.S. money and weapons flowing to Israel and to Arab countries allied with the United States. U.S. troops and others will be used to monitor the peace. In time, an oil boycott will be imposed with oil prices soaring to historic highs. Current Israeli-United States policies will solidify Arab Muslim nations in their effort to avenge the humiliation of the Palestinians. This will include those Muslim nations that in the past have fought against each other. Some of our moderate Arab allies will be overthrown by Islamic fundamentalists. The UN will continue to condemn through resolutions Israeli-U.S. policies in the Middle East, and they will be ignored. Some European countries will clandestinely support the Muslim countries and their anti-Israel pursuits. China, ironically assisted by American aid, much more openly will sell the militant Muslims the weapons they want and will align herself with the Arab nations. The United States, with Tony Blair as head cheerleader, will attack Iraq without proper authority, and a major war, the largest since World War II, will result. Major moves will be made by China, India, Russia, and Pakistan in Central Asia to take advantage of the chaos for the purpose of grabbing land, resources, and strategic advantages sought after for years. The Karzai government will fail and U.S. military presence will end in Afghanistan. An international dollar crisis will dramatically boost interest rates in the United States. Price inflation with a major economic downturn will decimate U.S. federal government finances and exploding deficits and uncontrolled spending. Federal Reserve policy will continue at an expanding rate with massive credit expansion, which will make the dollar crisis worse. Gold will be seen as an alternative to paper money as it returns to its historic role as money. Erosion of civil liberties here at home will continue as our government responds to political fear in dealing with the terrorist threat by making generous use of the powers obtained with the Patriot Act. Many American military personnel and civilians will be killed in the coming conflict. The leaders of whichever side loses the war will be hauled into and tried before the International Criminal Court for war crimes. The United States will lose the war, but neither will we win. Our military and political leaders will not be tried by the International Criminal Court. The Congress and the President will shift radically toward expanding the size and scope of the federal government. This will satisfy both the liberals and the conservatives. Military and police powers will grow, satisfying the conservatives. The welfare state, both domestic and international, will expand, satisfying the liberals. Both sides will endorse military adventurism overseas. This is the most important of my predictions. Policy changes could prevent all of the previous predictions from occurring. Unfortunately, that will not occur. In due course, the Constitution will continue to be steadily undermined and the American Republic further weakened. During the next decade, the American people will become poorer and less free, while they become more dependent on the government for economic security. The war will prove to be divisive, with emotions and hatred growing between the various factions and special interests that drive our policies in the Middle East. Agitation from more class warfare will succeed in dividing us domestically. And believe it or not, I expect lobbyists will thrive more than ever during the dangerous period of chaos. I have no timetable for these predictions, but just in case, keep them around and look at them in 5 to 10 years. Let's hope and pray that I'm wrong on all accounts. If so, I will be very pleased.
Gentleman has expired.
Wow. That is from 2002. That was a speech Ron Paul gave. Amazing accuracy there, Rusty, with some of those predictions. Man, oh man.
Hey, Ron Paul is no slouch, man. The guy's smart. You know, he really is. And, you know, I think, of course, that was quite a while ago, but because of Ron Paul, he is part of the reason I really started getting pretty heavily into prepping. I've always been kind of a prepper, but, you know, when you start listening to him and others, there's others out there, and I know you're not a big fan of Alex Jones, but I think Alex Jones, he's pretty extreme, but he does point out a lot of things that folks need to know.
Not anymore, man. Alex Jones has become on par with Glenn Beck. He's not he is not. He as far as mainstream goes. I mean, as far as mainstream goes, Alex Jones is not alternative media in my opinion anymore. He's not.
Don't even mention. I don't know. Maybe I like Alex Jones. We'll just leave it at that. I'm not even going to mention the other guy's name.
No, mention whatever you want. I don't care. Don't matter to me.
I can't stand Glenn Beck, idiot.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. I understand that. I was never a big fan of Alex Jones. Once, like you said, Ron Paul kind of got you into prepping and everything. Ron Paul kind of got me into politics, and even before that, I knew who Ron Paul was. Even before he ran for president, I had been kind of keen. I read my first issue of New American Magazine when I was 21, maybe 22 years old. A salesman for the restaurant I was working for came in and started talking about this weird concept about freedom and liberty, and me as an idealistic young man just out of high school had no concept of what those words meant. But my friend introduced me to the New American and, other issues, how the United Nations, for example, that's the problem I have, with the what is now called the truther movement. In my opinion, we used to, as a movement, get the U.S. out of the UN. That would take care of a lot of these problems that we're seeing now. First of all, that would have, we wouldn't have had the issues that we're having now with the military and whatnot, and serving under a UN or a NATO banner or flag, fighting these wars overseas and whatnot. It used to be, to preserve our sovereignty and our freedoms, get the U.S. out of the UN. That was the rally cry for a long time, and it's kind of like the alternative movement splintered after 9/11 and went in all these different directions, and there's no cohesion anymore. So things like, freedoms and liberty kind of take a back seat to, other stuff. And I'm rambling. Rusty, go ahead, bro.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't even want to get started on the UN. I mean, it's a joke. It's always been a joke. Get us out of the UN. I agree with that. And get the UN out of the U.S. Take the high-rises and turn into affordable housing for low-income folks. Be the best thing to do. But, a lot of the greats that I used to follow with prepping are gone. I was absolutely indebted to a guy by the name of A.C. Griffith. And A.C. Griffith was one of the funniest guys. He used to do radio programs on BTR, and he passed away. It's been a few years now ago that he passed, but he made prepping fun and funny. And he used to always have a saying. He said, the only thing I store in my bunker is feminine hygiene products and toilet paper, because when the whole society collapses, I'm going to rule the world. It was just that kind of stuff. He was just absolutely hilarious. He was one of the funniest guys in the world, and like I said, he passed away. It's been a few years ago. I think prepping should be fun. I think it should be interesting, and I think it's a fun hobby to have. I know we're kind of changing course here away from the UN, but because of the UN and because of the global wars and because of the global monetary collapse that I think we're slowly in right now, I think folks need to prepare for those sort of things, and whether that's storing food or water or hoarding silver or gold, whatever suits you best, you need to do. My personal opinion.
No, I agree. I agree with that. It's good to have this talk about politics on and whatnot with it, because this is the things we don't get a chance to discuss too often. But we look at the economy, bro. I just mentioned $1.39 a gallon gasoline. You're in the industry. How long do you think this is going to keep up, man?
I don't know. I think we bottomed. We hit 29. We're hovering 31, 32 right now. I don't think we can go down much longer. We now have a president that's saying he's going to, probably by executive fiat, slap a $10 a barrel tax on oil. now that it's low, because the people are so stupid they won't even notice that it's there. And then when oil hits 110 or 120 a barrel again, it'll actually have still a $10 tax on it. And the people will be bitching about the high price, and they'll, when it goes down a dollar a gallon more, and then they'll be happy that it's lower. So I don't know. We're not paying near that here. We're at about $1.70 here in rural Montana. So I don't know how long it is. I mean, it's terrible for the industry. It's terrible for me. Hell, I'm unemployed. In fact, everybody I know now is unemployed in this industry.
But the unemployment rate is 4.9%, man.
No,
how's that possible?
It's not, Jay. Right now in this country, 1 out of 3 working-age Americans is out of work because they jacked the numbers. When you run out of unemployment,
I know.
you're from unemployment. But I'm just telling the folks out there, if you file for unemployment and then your unemployment runs out, you're not considered unemployed anymore. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
Or if you're working 10 hours a week at a Quickie Mart making a few bucks, you're not unemployed anymore. That's not right. That's totally wrong. They just jacked the numbers is all they did. They just changed the bar to make it look like everything's going wonderful. Again, read the book Animal Farm. You'll find out what's going on. They tell you everything's good and it's not.
And yeah, I'm here. Yeah, agreed. And it's funny, like you said, it wasn't supposed to be a playbook or a manual, but that's kind of what it's turned out to be. Oh boy. So you wanna waste the next 30 minutes or so talking about prepping, Rusty? Not a waste.
Talk about anything.
I don't mean waste. We use the. We can talk about whatever you want, man. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I usually don't do a show, at night. So this is kind of an opportunity to do.
Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, not at all. Not at all, man. But I can do a show anytime I want here. I've got this network and I've got another one as well. So I can pretty much do a show anytime I want. You don't always have the opportunity to call in. So whatever's on your mind, go for it.
Well, I really just wanted to push out prepping, and I know people get sick of hearing me whine and bitch and complain and moan about it, but we've got spring coming. Start prepping and getting ready for your garden. What are you going to grow? Do you got a plot of land out there? Hang on a minute, I got to sneeze.
All right. Yeah, I'm a prepper, and I've classified the preppers. There's 2 categories in my opinion. There's the logic, common sense prepper, and then there's the prepper elite who just waste their money foolishly on the latest gadgets and the newest technology. To me, Rusty, it's always been funny that preppers who've got the money to spend, and I don't begrudge folks for having the money to spend on the stuff, but what sense does it make having the latest GPS technology and the latest fish finders and all these electronic gadgets if you're prepping for a grid down situation? Just my thought. I don't know.
Exactly. That's my thought too.
So anyway, folks, prepping gets a bad reputation, and that's kind of by design. It really is. It's by design. You say you're a prepper, and folks are like, oh, you're one of those doomsday preppers, and this and that. I let folks say what they want about prepping. I'd rather be prepared, and like I said, I'm a common sense prepper. I don't have tanks of gasoline buried in my backyard. I don't have an underground bunker dug. Things like that. But I for me, prepping should be very, very individual to suit everyone's individual needs. For me, my main concern would be food, water, and shelter. So that's what I've taken care of, and of course, firearms and this and that. But we can get into all kinds of different things. But most importantly, it's nice to have food and water and the ability to cook and heat my home when we have a thunderstorm roll through in the summer and knocks out the electricity, or a blizzard in the winter that ice forms on the lines. It's nice to be prepared for small emergencies. And, that's something you always stress. Take care of the small things, the little things, and, whatnot. But go ahead. As far as prepping goes, I don't have a problem talking prep or not, but I do have an issue with those folks who tell you that you're not prepping the right way. You're not preparing the right way.
But see, Jay, that's crazy, because what I live right on the Canadian border in northern Montana at a high elevation, okay? What I have to do to prep is a whole lot different than what a guy's got to do that lives in Miami, Florida, okay? I don't have to worry about hurricanes. They don't have to worry about snowstorms and blizzards, okay? What you do to prep is up to you as an individual. A lot of times when we hear prepper, and I always bring this out, if you ever saw the movie Tremors, about the big underground worms that were, rattling the desert out in Arizona or wherever, and there was the preppers that lived up on the hill, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he was the father on that Michael J. Fox Family, whatever it was, back in the 80s, that show with Michael J. Fox.
Family Ties.
He was the father on there. He played a great, wacky prepper survivalist. That's not what survivalism is. You're not living in a bunker. This is not the end of the world. You prep for your situation. Okay, where I live, it's food, it's water, it's a .22 rifle, and some ammunition, and it's shelter and clothing. Folks in Miami have no concept what 50 below zero is with a 40 mile an hour wind. They can't even comprehend it. We hit 50 degrees because the Chinook winds blew in today, and I put on my shorts and T-shirt and went to the store, and we have a word for them, but people from the South were looking at me like I was crazy because I was wearing shorts, T-shirts, and a sandal, and I was comfortable, and they were wearing a parka.
Right, so, same thing up here. Same thing here in Michigan. It hits 50 degrees, man. That's shorts and T-shirt weather.
And everybody, the locals from the people from the South. So what you. This is the way I tell everybody to start. Don't start by buying stuff. Don't start by buying that sniper rifle and paying $1,800 and a reloading press and making your own ammunition. This is what you start. You get yourself a piece of paper. You draw you up a couple of columns. In one column, you say what can happen or what's probable to happen and what's improbable but may happen. And you start on that left-hand side. What's probable to happen? I live in Miami. It's pretty probable that within the next 5 years, you're going to have a hurricane hit you. Almost guaranteed. Or if you live in New Orleans or anywhere along that Gulf Coast, Houston,
or
all the way down
or tropical storm, some type of storm to move in, right?
So go down that column. If you got a lined paper and write 10 items that you feel you would need in that situation to get you through it. Okay, whether that's food, water, shelter, inner tubes, rubber rafts. Hey, and I used to laugh at rubber rafts or people that would have a canoe. But you know what? When New Orleans flooded, I saw a lot of people in canoes. So what is it that you would need to get you through a really bad situation, the worst possible situation that you could imagine as far as a hurricane goes? Plywood, nails, hammers, food, water, shelter, extra dog food. Don't forget your pets. They're important. And go down that list. Now, up here, we're not going to get a hurricane. If we get a hurricane here in northern Montana, the rest of the world's gone. So I'm just saying. So what am I going to need here? Well, we had power outage a few years ago, 41 below zero, and power went out. And, I'm fortunate. I got alternative ways of heating. I went around and got my neighbors, brought them over to the house, and had ways to cook, and they ended up staying over here for a while. And those folks were in bad shape. They had no heat. The one young family had a newborn. No way to keep the baby warm other than they were cuddled under a blanket. Well, my house was, nice, balmy 62 degrees where it's always at. So we came over, we got some board games out, played some games, cooked some bacon and beans, and we had a good time. So I look at that. What if my heat goes out? What if I've got my alternates? What if my alternates go out? Do I have another way? Do I have a parka? Do I have some cold weather gear? What if I have to get out in this? Those are the things that you want to do. And go down and write that column up and prioritize them And then look at your next column, what may happen but is probably improbable. And if you will look at the items that you would probably need for that, they're going to be the same items that you're going to need for an everyday emergency for the most part. So let's say that the second item is, we have a nuclear attack in Washington, D.C., and radiation spreading all the way down to Miami. What am I going to need to survive? Well, let's see. I'm going to need food, water, shelter.
Bus ticket out of town.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you look at those probable things, prepare for the probable things, and the improbable things, if they happen, are going to be covered, okay? Now, I'm not talking about prepping for an alien invasion and mass rectal probing. I don't think that's going to happen. No.
Rusty, I don't want to throw you off your train of thought or anything, but that's the second time you've mentioned alien probing during the show this evening.
I can't talk about that. So anyhow, back to my subject. It's just, you hear about all this kookiness, that's
I get it.
The Art Bell groupies, and I'm a big Art Bell fan. Don't get me wrong. I heard he's actually coming back on the air, but the George Norrie guys and the Caravan to Midnight guys with John B. Wells, and some of their strange listeners are the weird ones. I was just kind of poking fun at them, but prep for those things and food. What kind of food? Here's what I say with food: don't go out and purchase these prepackaged in a bucket with the Gamma Seal thing that's going to run you $99 a bucket, and there's stuff in there that you're not going to want to eat. Don't do that. I'm not saying that these companies don't produce a good product, and some of them do produce a good product. And if you're in a financial wherewithal to do that, and that's what you want to do, and you're just lazy about it, but you still want to be prepared, that's fine. What I suggest is you go down to your grocery store, and when you buy something to eat, you're buying a can of Van de Kamp's pork and beans, buy 2, and put 1 on the shelf. And then when you use your 1 can of beans and you got the 1 in the shelf, go buy 2 more and use your can of beans that's in the shelf. Now you have 2 in the shelf. Now you have 2 on the shelf. Don't buy stuff you're not going to eat. And don't buy stuff that you have no freaking idea what it is. Don't buy lentils if you don't know how to cook lentils. I love lentils. I know how to cook them. Don't buy I see that a lot of these companies are selling like big bins of corn or big bins of wheat. Do you know how to cook wheat? I do, but do you? You know what to do with wheat. It's hard to eat just a bunch of dry kernels of wheat. Buy stuff that you eat. If you know how to cook dry beans are a great option. Rice is a great option. And they're cheap. And I'm not pushing rice because I don't think rice is really that good for you. White rice isn't, but it will extend a meal out. What if you need something quick to eat where you can't cook it? Well, sardines, Spam. I know you hate Spam, but these things
I don't hate Spam. I just don't eat it. I will. I've said it before. I will eat it. I don't hate it. But I will eat it if I have to.
www.jspamhater.com. Go to the website. You're not hiding anything from me, Jay. I know what's going on. No, I mean, but like I said, don't get crap that you're not going to eat. If you don't like sardines, don't buy sardines just because they have a long shelf life. I like sardines. There's very few things that I don't like. And then just don't do this all at once. Don't put a financial strain on yourself. I don't see the world coming to an end in the next 30 days. Okay, I see a slow decline, although it's getting more rapid over the next few months and possibly a year or two before we really start seeing the hurt. So take your time. Every time you go to the store, allocate $5, allocate $7, and buy something that you can store and that you can eat and that you can enjoy. Even putting up salt is a good start because salt is needed for your diet, of course, but it can be used to preserve food. Putting up sugar if you eat sugar. I don't know what sugar runs. I don't eat the stuff, but I think you can buy a 1 pound bag of sugar for $1 or $2, I'm assuming. But and that stuff's shelf stable. It'll last forever.
Yeah, sugar's going for about $2 for 4 pounds, so 50 cents a
for 4
pound
pounds.
or so. Yeah.
There you go. Put you up to a little bit of sugar. Put you up a little salt. Get some spices, pepper. Alpine Touch is a Montana spice. People outside this area don't know what it is, but Alpine Touch, garlic powder. Make your own if you need to. I make a lot of my own spices. Canned jalapenos, if you like canned jalapenos. Some hot sauce. You'd be surprised what you can do with hot sauce to make food palatable. There are certain things that I wouldn't eat without hot sauce. Jar of peanut butter. I've got deep freezers. I've got 3 freezers, and meat. I put meat up in the freezer.
I absolutely love the deep freezer, man. Oh, because it's really great because you can run if you're a shopper like me, a frugal shopper, you can run across deals and stock up on that stuff. And the way I look at it, you're just saving money in the long run. Because like me, I'm a logical, sensible prepper. I only buy the stuff I'm going to eat anyway, or the stuff that I'm willing to eat.
Right, and I got a great deal on bacon the other day. 1 pound of bacon for $2.39.
Big shock there, man. You and bacon.
So I bought 10 pounds of it. I mean, I throw it in the freezer. Bacon will freeze and it'll last forever in the freezer. Butter's the same way. Those sort of things. And here in my neck of the woods, I got about a 50-50 chance that if the power does go out on a long-term basis, it's going to be in the winter.
So you're going to be able to store the stuff outside, right?
Exactly. So and if not, I'm going to have a big neighborhood cookout for a while. But and learn to do things that I'm a big advocate of hitting the farmers markets and dealing with the local farmers. Like corn here, everybody grows corn. This is corn country. And kind of down towards the end of the corn season, they'll start selling corn usually 15 ears for $1. Or they'll go as much as you can put in a plastic, Walmart type sack for $1. And learn to do things with that corn, whether it's just drying it, which there's a presentation on my website. Thank you for asking. Drying it and being able to grind it up in the future, or blanching it and freezing it on the cob so you got fresh corn on the cob all winter, or canning it. There's just taking it off the cob and vacuum sealing it and putting it in the freezer. All those things are ways of storing food. I'm a big dehydrator guy. I love my food dehydrator. I dry everything from meats to vegetables to fruits, and I love dried fruit. And when I get those big deals here in this area, we have what's called the flathead cherries. They're growing around the Flathead Lake, Flathead area over in western Montana. And when they're in season, you can pick them up for a couple bucks a pound. Bring them home, pit them, dry them. I love dried cherries. Fantastic. So everybody has something in their area that they can purchase or grow or produce or harvest that you can store long term to get you through a bad time. Everybody. I don't care if you live. I lived in Odessa, Texas, West Texas, middle of the freaking desert, and there's stuff that you can get out there. So I'm just saying, if I can live in that harsh environment, wherever you're at, you've got something to harvest. One thing I would absolutely love to do would be learn to preserve fish. We do have fish, of course, here. We've got some landlocked salmon and other things, and I've never preserved it other than we smoked a little bit, and my grandpa canned trout, and it was the most vile stuff I ever had in my life. Need to find some other way of doing it, but smoked salmon and fish I've never done. We did it as a kid, but I've never done it since I've been an adult. So that's something that I try to expand my knowledge base on how to preserve fish. You folks that live near the ocean, I'm kind of envious of you because the fishing's so darn good. So go out and experiment with it. That's the best way to do things, is experiment with something cheap. If you buy a big old case of apples and you take 4 or 5 of those apples out, you decide you're going to can applesauce, and your first little experiment doesn't work, you've wasted those apples, but you didn't have to learn to do it on the fly when a grid down situation or a bad situation happens. So experiment a little bit with things.
Yeah, and like you, Rusty, I'm an advocate of shopping local, the local farm markets, local produce distributors, things like that. There's a few farm markets within driving range here. Not as many as I imagine in more rural areas, but I do like to go to the farm markets when the stuff is in season. But not only that, I'm a big advocate of spending your money locally. To get off prepping for just a sec here, spend your money locally because it helps your local economy. You go to your local stores. It could be a chain; it doesn't matter. But go local in your city. You're employing your neighbors and you're helping to keep your neighbors employed and whatnot. But I try to buy as many local products as possible. And here in Detroit, we've got a lot of great products that are staples in my kitchen. Things that you can't get in other areas. So I enjoy that, and it helps the local economy. But back to your point about the farmers market and getting in with the farmers, I like to go to the farmers markets when they first open. Look at they usually have a big table of the what I call the ugly vegetables, the things that aren't cosmetically appealing, and you can usually get those things. I've gotten half a pack of green peppers for $1 just because they weren't up to store shelf standards and whatnot, things like that. So you can get great deals if you look for them. And I pride myself on being a deal hunter.
Oh, I do too. And one of the things we're pretty fortunate out here. We've got folks that come to the farmers market that sell fresh lamb. If you're a lamb, I love lamb. And fresh, of course, this is Montana. We're one of the largest cattle producers in the country. So there's always plenty of beef. And there's a couple of little, I call them hippie communes. And I'm not using that in a bad way, but they're like 3 or 4 hippie families that got together, young people, bought up a plot of land, and they raise everything organic. And you can actually buy into their little co-op where pig, and you can purchase part of that pig up front, and then they raise the pig organically for you. They don't, fatten them up on potato chips and, slop from the local restaurant. They free range them and feed them, organic vegetables and produce out of the gardens. And then you own a quarter of that pig. And when they go to butcher, you get your quarter of a pig. And it's not a bad deal. But they also raise kale and potatoes. This is a potato production area. Of course, it's high mountains. It's close to Idaho. And we got the volcanic soil. So you can get the potatoes and you can get the green peppers. And we actually now I've got a lady with a small little mom and pop co-op here in town, and she raises nothing but the hottest peppers in the world. She raises scorpions, those ghost peppers.
Oh boy!
Yeah, and I buy them. I'll get, and she's really reasonable. You can get 3 for $1 usually, and I dry those things and I make scorpion powder out of it for making sausage. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of buying local. And we got some of that are non-organic also, of course, where you can get a bunch of tomatoes real reasonable. And cabbages, of course, is a large German community here. So cabbage and potatoes and onions are a staple. But we have a really large Vietnamese family. I think the Vietnamese that moved, and they have like 40 acres or 50 acres. And their sole means of support is raising stuff. Everything from, they're Thai. I'm sorry, they're not Vietnamese. They're from Thailand. And they sell basil in bundles and cucumbers 3 for $1, 4 for $1 in season. And everything from jalapenos down. Now, they're not organic, but they're local and they got good stuff. So hit those guys up. Learn to preserve it. Learn to dry. Learn to can. Learn to freeze. And set that stuff up. And then once you have your items frozen or dried or canned, learn to use them properly. If you're drying dill and you don't know how to use dried dill, then you got a problem. Why are you drying dill? Make sure you know what you're doing. If you buy beans, and I've got local people here that grow beans, this is a big bean production area, and you can buy a gunny sack full of beans for $20, but you don't know how to cook beans, or you don't know how to use beans,
right.
Maybe you ought to try it out a little bit. I'm a big bean guy. I like beans. Good old time at the Shackelford house tonight after beans, I'll tell you. But I love beans.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of beans.
Yeah, and they're one of those things that you can really extend a meal out with. You can have a small piece of meat the size of your hand, and you can throw in a couple cups of beans, and you can feed 3 or 4 people, when that one piece of meat would only fed one person. They're a great extender, and they got a lot of protein and fiber and everything else in them that are good for you. Can't live exclusively on beans, but you throw in a little fleck of meat here and there, and it's a good way to extend the meal. And it's a whole lot better than buying crap like ramen noodles. That again, if you want to eat ramen noodles, you can do your hard. But they're nothing but cardboard. They're not even food. There's no nutrition to them. They're not even a filler, and they personally make me where I can't go duty for a few days, and I don't normally have that kind of a problem. So get something else and learn to cook it, and look at cooking as an art and something that you enjoy doing while you're listening to Truth Radio Net and you're cooking up something and you're having fun and you're doing it as a family, or you're doing it with a friend or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, your dog, whatever, and practice, and eventually you are going to find some way to cook an item that tastes not only good to you, it tastes good to other people. It's something that somebody else has never done before. So I've actually taken black beans, cooked them, mashed them, and made little bean cakes out of them. And that sounds disgusting, but put a little sour cream on them, and they're darn good. That's something that most people have never done before. So try doing different things and experimenting, so that when the time comes that you don't have electricity because you had a hurricane blow through downtown Detroit, and you have no power and you have no water and you have no gas, that you have a way of using your Coleman stove to cooking up a pot of beans and maybe cost you $1 or less, and you can feed 10 people on a big pot of beans, and you can have your neighbors over, and you can keep your neighbors from going hungry and looting your stuff. Learn to do those things now and practice them now and feed your family now. Number one, it's healthier, and number two, you'll know what to do when the time comes. And, Jay, the other day you had mentioned something that I cannot stress enough. Learn skills. Cooking is a skill. It's an important skill. Learn to. I put a presentation. I had my web guru put a presentation on my website on how to butcher an animal. That sounds kind of gross and disgusting.
Yeah, but
if things got to where this economy crashed and the only thing you could do would be to barter, and you could barter because you had they had 20 pounds or 30 pounds of extra spuds out of your garden, and your neighbor is willing to trade you a lamb for it. Do you know how to butcher that lamb? Okay, it's not a pleasant thought. I understand that. I'm a hunter. I don't like killing things, but I do to eat. And there's a presentation up there showing you how to butcher. I used a deer. A year ago, we got a buffalo. A buddy of mine's wife got a buffalo permit, and we went and shot a wild buffalo, and that was an experience and a half butchering that thing out, about 1,800 pounds. But what if it was a whole cow? Would you know how to butcher that animal to make it edible? You can't just kill it and walk up and cut a hunk off of it and start barbecuing. Right. That's not the way it works.
It does in Hollywood. It does in Hollywood. That's how they do it.
Yeah, but that's not the way things work. So I got to go through on how to do that sort of thing. And there's another presentation on how to make sausage. Most people have never made sausage before, but know how to make sausage. And again, I'm going to sound kind of prejudicial here. City folks, because of the convenience of where they live, where they have access to, the Quickie Mart on the corner where they can get 24 hours of all unlimited Slurpees and a candy bar and a bag of chips, they have lost a lot of the things that are survival skills, such as cooking. And I'm not saying you, Jay, but I'm saying that a lot of the urbanite people eat 3 meals a day out because it's convenient for them. They've lost the skills of cooking, food preparation, and not only food preparation, but take it one step further. Production of food, how to make your own food out of things that you garner or shoot or gather yourself. Just food preparation in and of itself is gone. Unfortunately, in this day and age, A home cooked meal involves opening up a couple of cans of food and dumping them in a pot and warming them up.
Or opening up a box of something of, some kind of prepared food. That stuff really isn't good for you at all. I mean, if you're going to eat it once in a while, fine, but you're much better off and you'll save a lot of money in the long run by preparing your own food and making stuff. Me as a chef, I absolutely want to know as much as possible about what is in my food, and if at all possible, make it myself. I am that picky as far as eating out. I don't like fast food. I don't like to eat anywhere where I can't see the food being prepared. So there's very few restaurants that I'll even go to. And if I do, there are people that I know, either that I've worked for or I have a professional relationship with from in the past, and I trust them. But yeah, I'm one of these folks that convenience to me isn't really convenient if you're going to eat something that's going to get you fat or get you sick or just something that's not good for you. You're not sure about what's in it. It's just, to me, peace of mind is more important than convenience.
I absolutely love cooking, and I absolutely love cooking out of my survival pantry, out of my I call it the bunker. I don't have a bunker. It's just an expression I use. But it's just a room. I've got a 4-bedroom house. Don't use all 4 bedrooms, of course. So I've got 1 bedroom with nothing but shelving in it. And that's basically my shop-at-home quickie mart. I've got everything I need in there. I absolutely love cooking out of my bunker. I like getting my pasta out of the bunker. I like getting my canned goods, my homemade canned goods out of there, and making a meal, 3 meals a day, for me 4 meals a day usually, and doing everything from scratch. Because it's like you said, I know what's in it. I know it's clean. I know I didn't take that hamburger patty and rub it in my dirty underwear before I served it to the person behind, on the other side of the counter. I know it's clean. I know where my meat comes from because most of it is wild game. I process myself. I don't even take my wild game down to a butcher. I butcher it all myself, skin it, clean it, process it, package it. I do that all without help because I don't want somebody else touching my food, not because I'm paranoid, but because I know the quality of what I do, and I don't know the quality of this guy down the road. So, not saying I wouldn't go to a butcher, not saying that I wouldn't, have somebody at a store package something for me, because it does happen on occasion, but I prefer to do that sort of thing myself. And I think people can do that and learn things. And we live, you made another point the other day, we live in an age of wonders where we can get on this thing called the internet and we can surf and learn to do stuff, make your own laundry detergent, make your own toothpaste, make your own soap. These things are available out there to learn to do. They will save you a few cents or a buck here or there, but the skill that you learn off the internet and then practice is invaluable. You can't put a price on that kind of an education. So I get on my soapbox when I talk about this sort of stuff because these arts are being lost. And in the event that we do have some kind of a coronal mass ejection or a solar flare or something that knocks our power out for an extended period of time, we are doomed as an American society. Places like Krapistan and sub-Saharan Africa are in a whole lot better condition than we will be because they have not lost these skills. They're still on a survival level. And there's very few, I say nobody, but there are so few people in this country that are on a survival level that society would collapse.
Yeah, absolutely. And 100 years ago, Rusty, the things we're talking about now were just the way of life. It was the way you woke up 6 o'clock in the morning or earlier. You went and worked in the yard, and usually the woman stayed in the house. And I'm not being sexist here, but someone stayed in the house and start preparing food. Dinner. All 3 meals were prepared usually, and it wasn't something that was just done in a couple of minutes. There was fresh ingredients. From garden to table. You knew where your food was because you most likely had a hand in growing it. These skills that we talk about are foreign and strange now. But 100 years ago, if you didn't know how to grow a garden, there's a good chance that you wouldn't be able to eat well.
Exactly. And there are simple things that people can do. I mean, look, go to my website. I don't know if I've got it on there. If I don't have it on there, I'll get it to Jay. We'll get it on there. Making your own homemade corn tortillas. All right? It's so simple. It's so easy to do. You can make it in a few minutes. It is kind of a fast food, and it's something that'll last for 3 or 4 days. And that's your carbohydrate. I'm gluten-free, and I can't eat gluten anymore. It gives me an upset tummy. But so I make these homemade corn tortillas a couple times a week, and I got a fresh bread substitute. And I use lard in it. I'm sorry, but I do use lard in mine. And so I get, I get my fat, I get my carbohydrates, I get my proteins, and they're tasty, and put a little butter and jelly on them, and you got a good dessert. Those sort of things like that are lost skills. I mean, you still kind of see it. A lot of the old Mexican ladies down in South Texas where I used to live could make the best tortillas in the world. And it's not a lost skill to the older generation. But the generation that's coming, it's going, Jay. It's gone. Something, just look at it for preserving a skill. Learn to do it, and you'll preserve a skill. And then you'll have a way of getting by when you have to.
Right on. Speaking of going and gone, this show is just about gone, brother. Almost 2 hours of nothing but running our mouths. So, boy, what a pleasure it's been.
Holy smokes. Well, I want to give a quick shout-out to the Desert Rat Preppers out in West Texas. Robbie Dominguez out there. Look them up, desertratpreppers.com, and I think they're on Facebook. And a couple of
there's a link on your website to their site as well.
There is, and I want to say hi to Jennifer. She said she was going to be listening to the show tonight. Facebook friend of mine. I'm not even sure where she lives, but howdy. So, and there's just so many folks. And plug my website, thetowelofrusty.yolosite.com. Everything's free, no advertising. I'm not selling anything. I just want you to go look at the presentations, learn to do some stuff on there. So, and again, I want to really give a big thank you to you, Jay, for keeping my website up for me and providing this forum. I know, it takes a lot of your time and effort, and it's appreciated not only by me, but there's a lot of people out there that appreciate this. So
yeah, anything I can do to help out, brother. That's what keeps me going. Is the fact that we're helping so many people out with the radio shows here, the ministry, the network here, rather, and your website as well. A lot of good information on there. I would have never even thought about making my own laundry soap, but Unituber provided us with that little project, and it's great information. It's easy to follow. All right, hey, we're down to the last minute and a half. Our website is www.thetruthradionetwork.com. You can listen to us, of course, here on Blog Talk Radio for the live shows. Check out the times on our website. Podcast for you folks listening on Spreaker, on SoundCloud. Thank you. We appreciate it. Also on YouTube and now Vimeo as well. But the easiest way, and I tell folks this not because we've got anything to sell on the website, but the easiest way, because how glitchy Blog Talk Radio is, and some folks just don't have the patience for the flash players and the load times and everything, just go to our website and the latest show plays automatically. You'll be able to hear this show probably in the next, within an hour, by the top of the hour. So that's the easiest way. You don't have to download anything, but Rusty, we're about out of time. I hope you can make it back Thursday when Joe and I take to the airwaves. I'll be back Tuesday with Army Girl for Christ talking about, oh boy, I don't know what we're going to talk about. But thanks for a great show. Man, I can't believe it's gone by that quick, bro.
Thank you, and bonjour, and everybody hit the websites up and make that first step this week. Write that list up and go from there.
Right on. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Have a great week. If we don't see you, have a great weekend. Hey, if anyone is concerned, Denver won the Super Bowl. My prediction, another one down the tubes. That's it for this evening. Hey, catch us again soon for another episode of TRN at Night. www.thetruthradionetwork.com. Take care and God bless. This is the Truth Radio Network. The Truth Radio Network, your home for compelling Christian news talk with an edge.